Ladies and gentlemen, oh, you're gonna love this one. They thought they were clever, didn't they? Sent, in their little genius with the wires and the clipboard, a mind reader. A man who thought he could crawl into people's heads and find the truth hiding in there. But what happens when the truth bites back? When the thing you're looking for starts looking right back at you. See, everyone wants to peek behind the curtain, but no one ever thinks about what's waiting on the other side. They wanted to study madness, dissect it, measure it, put it in a box, but they forgot. Madness doesn't sit still. It breathes, it laughs, it learns. He looked inside and saw something he couldn't name, something that wasn't supposed to think back. And for the first time, the one who reads minds started to question his own. Tell me, what do you call it, when the mirror starts to stare harder than you do? When the whisper in your head doesn't sound like your voice anymore? They sent a mind reader? Sure, but they didn't send him prepared for what he'd feel. You know what's funny about people who think they can understand the mind? They walk around with their charts, their little tests, and their smug faces, thinking they've got it all figured out. They treat the human brain like a puzzle, as if all it takes is a few right pieces to make sense of it. But what they forget is that some puzzles were never meant to be solved. Some corners just keep changing shape the more you try to fit them. That's the thing about madness. It's not disorder, it's freedom. It doesn't follow your rules, it laughs at them. And he, our little mind reader, thought he was stepping into a study. He didn't realize he was stepping into a storm. He sat there, eyes closed, calm and professional, pretending to understand. Wires humming, machines whispering. He thought he could listen in on the chaos, like tuning into a radio station of pain and secrets. But there was something waiting on that frequency, something that didn't like being listened to. When you peer too deep into someone's soul, you might just find the parts of yourself you buried alive. He wanted to read what makes a person snap, what makes them tick, what makes them tear the world apart with a smile. But when he opened that door, the smile wasn't on the subject's face anymore. It was his. It started slow, like a hum in his chest. He said it felt like electricity, like static in his thoughts. The voices weren't external. No, they were his. Whispering things he shouldn't know, showing him things he couldn't possibly imagine. Every word he thought was his own suddenly felt borrowed. Every breath came with a question. Who's thinking this? And you could see it in his eyes, that flicker, that beautiful moment when certainty dies. The mind reader became the story, not the scientist. He once believed knowledge was power, that understanding chaos would tame it. But chaos doesn't want to be tamed. It wants to dance. It wants to play. And when it finds someone arrogant enough to think they can control it, oh, it has fun. He realized that the more he tried to understand, the more the walls in his mind began to shift. The line between him and the subject blurred until there was no difference. He stopped asking questions. He started answering them, from voices that didn't belong to him. You see, he thought he was studying darkness from the safety of the light, but the light is a fragile thing. One flicker, one breath, one heartbeat, and the dark takes over. It's patient, it waits, it watches. And the moment he opened himself up to understand, the dark didn't hesitate. It welcomed him. It spoke through him. It laughed with him. And in that laughter, he understood something no textbook ever could. The mind isn't a place you visit. It's a labyrinth you either escape from or become a part of. When they found him, he wasn't the same. The machines were still running, his notes still scribbled. But he wasn't there, not really. His eyes were open, but empty. His smile, oh, that smile. It looked too calm for a man who'd seen everything. Maybe he found what he was looking for. Or maybe what he found was looking for him all along. You see, people like to dress up the word truth like it's some kind of holy treasure. Pure, shiny, untouchable. But truth is a knife. It doesn't set you free, it cuts you open. Everyone says they want to know what's real, what's underneath the lies. But the funny thing is, they start screaming the moment they see it. Because truth isn't beautiful. It's not gentle. It's not some bright light waiting to save you. No truth crawls. It bleeds. It takes its time. And once you've seen it, really seen it, you can't ever look away again. The mind reader thought he was going to uncover secrets, little buried memories, the kind that make you cry and heal and write a book about it later. But what he found wasn't sadness. It was clarity. And clarity, my friend, is much, much worse. Clarity means no excuses left, no shadows to hide behind. You start to see people for what they really are, desperate, terrified, pretending. You start to see the whole system built on lies stacked neatly like dominoes, waiting for one curious hand to knock them down. And when he saw it, he didn't feel powerful. He felt small. Because truth doesn't make you a god, it makes you honest. He used to believe that understanding others made him stronger. That by seeing what they were thinking, he could control the game. But the more he saw, the more he realized the same patterns repeating in every face. Fear, greed, guilt, hunger. It's all the same loop. The more he read, the clearer it became nobody's original. Not one thought, not one dream. Just echoes bouncing off walls built by the same broken hands. That's when he understood. The truth isn't discovered. It's unleashed. It's a beast that's been chained inside you, waiting for you to say the wrong word. He started writing about it, obsessing over what he called the moment of fracture. The instant when a person sees too much and something inside them snaps. He said it feels like the world stops making sense. Because it finally does. He began to laugh during his sessions, that low, nervous laugh of someone who's seen something he shouldn't. He said the truth talks, not in words, but in silence. The silence between thoughts, the empty spaces where you realize none of it was real. Not the smiles, not the prayers, not the promises. Just masks. Layers and layers of them. You know what happens when you strip those masks off. People beg for the lie back. They miss it. They need it. The mind reader learned that the hard way. Once he tore down the walls, there was no going back to sleep. He couldn't unraid what he saw. The truth didn't free him. It followed him. Every sound, every shadow, whispering, laughing, showing him the world as it is. Raw, hollow, exposed. And he couldn't stop looking. Because the more it hurt, the more real it felt. The truth consumes you like a mirror that never breaks, reflecting every piece of who you are until you forget which side you're standing on. And that's the punchline, isn't it? Everyone says they want to find the truth. But no one ever asks what happens when the truth finds them. Sanity, what a pretty little word. Sounds clean, safe like a white room with no sharp edges. But the thing about sanity is, it's fragile. It bends, it creaks, it stretches under the weight of curiosity until one day snap. People think madness comes from chaos, from trauma, from pain. No. Madness comes from asking one question too many. From staring too long into the quiet, and realizing the quiet is staring back. The mind reader thought he was safe behind his training, his methods, his logic. But logic is a cage, and curiosity is the hand that rattles the bars. He wanted to understand the human mind, every impulse, every flicker, every shadow. He thought if he mapped it out, he could control it, tame it, maybe even heal it. But the deeper he went, The thinner the line became between observation and absorption. You can't study the storm without getting wet. You can't stare into the abyss without it grinning back at you. The deeper he listened, the more his own thoughts started to echo with voices that weren't his. He said it felt like gravity was turning inside out, like his own sanity was bending to make room for something else. You see, curiosity sounds noble. It's what drives discovery, invention, progress. But it's also what drives people to ruin. He started losing track of time during sessions, forgetting when one thought ended and another began. He said he could feel other people's memories bleeding into his, like ink spreading through water. At first, he called it empathy. Then he called it connection. Then he stopped calling it anything at all, because once your mind starts bending, there's no word for what you become. Sanity isn't about balance. It's about boundaries. And once you cross them, there's no sign pointing you back. He used to laugh at the idea of losing your mind. How do you lose something that's inside your head? But then he understood. It's not about losing it, it's about sharing it. When the walls between thoughts get thin enough, when the noise gets too loud, you start to forget which voice is yours. That's when the mind starts to fold in on itself. He tried to hold on, to logic, to reason, to control. But control is a trick the mind plays to keep you calm before it falls apart. Every rational explanation began to feel like a lie he told himself to stay comfortable. And the funny part, he knew it. He could see the lie forming as he said it. But he kept saying it anyway, because it was the only thing keeping him from unraveling completely. He once wrote in his notes, "The mind is elastic. It stretches to accommodate what it fears." But he forgot that elasticity has limits. Stretch it too far, and it doesn't snap back, it just stays warped, bent out of shape, changed. That's what curiosity did to him. It didn't destroy him, it reshaped him. Because once you've seen what lies beneath sanity, once you've felt how thin the floor really is, you stop fearing the fall. You start wondering what's waiting below. He thought he was in control. That's the funniest part. Sitting there in his little chair, wires on the table, notebooks scattered like breadcrumbs leading to enlightenment. He really believed he was the one pulling the strings, observing, analyzing, reading. But tell me something, what if the act of reading was the trap? What if, from the very first moment, he wasn't the one studying, he was the one being studied? You can't open someone's mind without opening your own, and once that door swings both ways, well, something's bound to walk through. He called it data feedback. He said when you connect deeply enough with a mind, the frequencies, emotions, subconscious waves, there's an exchange. But it wasn't numbers flowing back at him. No, it was feeling. He said the subject's emotions didn't just project, they crawled, slipped through, found their way into his thoughts. At first, he dismissed it as empathy, a side effect of deep connection. But soon, the line blurred so beautifully that he couldn't tell whose pain he was analyzing anymore, his own or theirs. That's when the mirror began to crack. He started recording strange sessions, where he'd ask a question, and the answer came before the subject could even open their mouth. He'd laugh to himself, saying, "I'm anticipating the pattern." But patterns don't whisper your name at 3 a.m. Patterns don't tell you things only you should know. He realized the readings were reading him. Every test, every probe. It wasn't uncovering the mind, it was reflecting it. His questions were the bait, and his thoughts were the catch. And once the connection deepened, it became impossible to tell where he ended, and the experiment began. The subject started describing his memories, his nightmares, his guilt. They said things no one could have known, things he never wrote down, never spoke aloud, and that's when the laughter began. He said it started in his head, soft and distant, like someone chuckling from another room. But each day it grew louder, more familiar, more like his own. He wasn't reading minds anymore. He was hearing his own thoughts through them. Like they'd been hijacked, echoed back with distortion. Every word from their mouths sounded like his own voice with a twist, as if the experiment had turned into a funhouse where every reflection smiled just a second too late. He wasn't the observer, he was the observed. You see, he'd tried to study consciousness as if it were separate, as if you could poke at it without bleeding into it. But the mind isn't a machine, it's a mirror maze. You can't walk through without leaving fingerprints. And the deeper he went, the more those fingerprints began to look like faces. His faces, multiplied, distorted, laughing. He began to realize the most terrifying truth of all, that the mind he thought he was exploring wasn't theirs. It was his own, stretched across 100 borrowed reflections. By the end, the distinction between reading and being read vanished completely. His notes turned from analysis into confessions. His questions became prayers. Every thought he once believed was his tool became his prison. Because once the mind learns your voice, once it understands your rhythm, it doesn't need your permission anymore. It speaks for you. Madness doesn't hide in the dark corners of the world. It sits right in the open, smiling, waiting for someone brave or stupid enough to notice it. Most people look away. They have to. It's survival. You keep your eyes down, your mind closed, pretend the chaos isn't humming behind every thought. But him, the mind reader, he looked straight at it. He stared into the pulse of madness, thinking he could contain it, label it, maybe even fix it. But madness doesn't run. It doesn't hide. It invites. It opens its arms and says, "Come play." You know what happens when you accept that invitation. You stop seeing the world the same way. The colors shift. The edges blur. Things start to make too much sense. That's the trick. Madness isn't confusion. It's over-clarity. It's when every random sound, every flicker of light starts connecting like an invisible thread. It's when coincidence becomes pattern, and pattern becomes truth. That's what got him. He began to see order in the chaos, meaning in the madness. And the moment you see meaning where none should exist, you're already gone. He started describing it in his journal, how madness felt alive, intelligent. Not a sickness, but a force, something that watched back. He said it whispered, not in words, but in understanding. That's how it works. It doesn't shout. It agrees with you. It tells you you're right. It tells you you've figured it out. It tells you everyone else is blind. And oh, that's the sweetest trap of all. The illusion that you're the only sane one in a world of fools. He didn't realize he wasn't conquering madness. He was becoming its mouthpiece. He stopped fearing it. He started admiring it. That's how it wins. The more he studied it, the more beautiful it became. The patterns, the laughter, the raw honesty of it. He said madness doesn't lie like sanity does. Sanity builds walls. Madness tears them down. It doesn't care about rules, morals, expectations. It doesn't pretend to be civilized. It shows you the truth no one wants to see. That underneath the suits, the smiles, the rituals, everyone's just a little bit cracked, praying their cracks don't show. And he was right, for a while. Madness is honest, but honesty can burn you alive. Once he let it in, there was no separation left. He couldn't tell if he was analyzing the madness, or if the madness was analyzing him. He said it felt like being inside a joke you couldn't stop laughing at, even though you didn't understand the punchline. Every sound became a signal. Every silence felt like a response. He said the walls in his lab started breathing. Maybe they didn't. Maybe they always were. You see, madness doesn't force itself on you. It seduces you. It makes you curious. It makes you want to listen. That's how it spreads, not through fear, but fascination. And once you start listening to it long enough, you start realizing it's not whispering from the outside anymore. It's speaking from inside your own voice. You don't even notice when the echo becomes the source. You just keep talking, and the madness keeps answering. You can't unsee what the dark shows you. That's the rule no one writes down. Everyone talks about discovery like it's noble, shining a light, finding answers, uncovering truth. But the dark doesn't disappear when you light it up. It just steps back, waits, and watches. And when the light flickers, and it always flickers, the dark returns twice as strong, twice as loud, whispering everything you wish you hadn't learned. That's what happened to him. He went too deep, peeled back too many layers, and the things he saw didn't leave when he closed his eyes. They stayed. They followed. He used to say the human mind is a vault, that memories are just stories locked away, waiting to be read. But what he didn't understand is that some memories aren't yours to touch. Some doors are sealed for a reason. The moment he forced them open, something came out that didn't want to go back in. He described it as echoes that breathe. Not hallucinations, not voices, echoes. The kind that crawl under your skin and start thinking for you. He tried to fight it, of course. More studies, more readings, more noise to drown out the whispers. But that's how the dark works. It doesn't fight back, it waits. It waits until you're tired, until the line between sleep and waking blurs, and then it speaks. And when it speaks, it doesn't sound like a monster. It sounds like you. It tells you what you want to hear, what you fear the most, what you've buried so deep you forgot it existed. He realized too late that he wasn't haunted by what he discovered. He was haunted by himself. Every night, he'd sit in that cold little room, staring at the machines he once trusted. He said the lights on the monitor started blinking in rhythm with his heartbeat, as if mocking him, reminding him that the machine knew him better than he knew himself. He wasn't reading minds anymore. He was trapped inside one, his own. Every thought, every feeling, every fear playing on a loop, twisting tighter and tighter until the difference between inside and outside was gone. He stopped sleeping. Said the dreams weren't dreams anymore. They were memories from someone else's head. The faces he'd studied, the voices he'd recorded, all of them merging, blending, becoming one. He said the dark had a voice now, calm, patient, familiar. It told him there was never any experiment, no mind to read, no subject to study. It told him that all along, he'd been looking into the reflection of his own creation. A mind split open, bleeding curiosity and regret. And the most terrifying part, he started to believe it. He stopped trying to escape because the dark made too much sense. It felt honest, comfortable. It didn't lie, didn't pretend. It just showed him what he always was. A man who looked too hard, dug too deep, and mistook the abyss for understanding. You can't unsee what the dark shows you, because once it lets you in, you don't walk away. You wake up.